I've been asked on many different interviews, what's your favorite thing about Russia? And it is absolutely, the Russians treat children like gold. Like gold bars, that's how they treat children.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the John Henry Weston Show, coming to you from Moscow, Russia. We are here in the home of Joseph Schutzman and his family. Thank you, Joseph, for inviting us.
It's our pleasure, John.
Let's begin, as we always do, with the sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Joseph and Ann Schutzman, thank you for having us. Would your children care to introduce themselves to us?
Of course.
I'm Clotilde. I'm Marie Antoinette. I'm Joseph.
This is Wolfgang.
And this is my first Russian son, Misha, or Mikhail.
I'm Florian.
Florian, good to meet you on camera. We already met before. We've seen each other around since you accompanied your dad on various things. Now, I was most impressed the other day when we went to a very long Orthodox service with the Patriarch Kirill, and then we went to Mass. It was Sunday, and so we went from the one to the other. And it was an Armenian Rite Mass, and you stood and stood and stood and stood and stood for many, many hours. So that was very impressive. Now, you also wrote a beautiful birthday card for your dad. In the birthday card, you expressed he wasn't with you on his birthday, which was kind of sad, but what was he doing, did you say?
He was doing Our Lady's work on her day.
Isn't that beautiful? And what day is that?
Wednesday.
And what day of hers is that?
Our Lady of Ransom.
Oh, beautiful. Do you remember living in America?
Yes, I remember some memories. Sugar Creek was this wonderful store that had these lovely sandwiches.
Do you enjoy living in Russia?
Yes, I do.
You do. What do you like about it most?
The friendly children.
Ah, the friendly children. Are there many children here that you get to play with?
Not in this village, but we sometimes see adults passing by, but it's usually when we go out in Moscow.
And you guys attend a Mass in Moscow every week. And where is that?
We go to the Armenian, we go to the Latin.
Okay, so you go to the Armenian Mass and to the Latin Mass. So are you learning Russian already?
Yeah, chut-chut.
Okay. I don't know what that means yet, but that's okay. What does it mean?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay, very good. Chut-chut?
Chut-chut.
That's going to take me a long time. Last thing for you. Why do you think you are here? What's the mission?
To do Our Lady's work.
Beautiful. Thank you, Florine. It was great talking to you.
My pleasure.
For U.S. residents, creating a will has never been easier. Thanks to My Legacy Will, an online platform free of charge, you can now create your own will and choose to include LifeSite news in it. Specify where your funeral will take place, the number of masses to be offered for your soul, and how your estate would be distributed. We would be deeply grateful if you remembered LifeSite news in your will. Visit mylegacywill.com/LifeSite news. Thank you for your support, and may God bless you.
Joseph, Ann, thank you so much for having us. You moved from America to Russia. You had 6 children when you moved. How old was the oldest when you moved?
The oldest was Florine, and she was 6 years old, I believe. That's correct? Yeah, it's 6 under 6. Most recently, we were living in Kansas. I'm from Texas originally, but
okay.
Ann is from Australia.
Everybody's going to be asking, why would you do that? And why Russia?
You know, we did talk quite a bit about this. This ironically actually didn't start by moving to Russia. It was first and foremost about leaving America. You know, Ann had already left her family to marry myself, had the 6 children in America. So she already abandoned her country for myself, but then we kind of reevaluated the situation, the direction in which things are going in America. Certainly the way that things were going in America, I believe that still are going in this ultimately horrible direction. And you know, a lot of people, when they're kind of thinking about this and the environment for their children, they're thinking about the here and the now, not what's actually coming. And I don't mean the apocalypse, certainly, it's always coming every day, but what happened during COVID destroyed a generation of children. It was already being destroyed, certainly, the schools as they are now today, particularly the public schools and whatnot. But after the whole COVID thing and people lost their ever-loving minds, we saw an entire generation of children that was destroyed. They were so far behind in their school, loss of focus, lots of experimentations on things that children should never, ever be exposed to. And not only are those the children that came back out after COVID, but those are going to be adults one day. And my children will be adults with them, and they will live in the world with those children. And that's what we did not want for our children.
So you took it upon yourselves to come to Russia. Many people are going to say, but there's other places in the world. Why Russia? Aren't they anti-Catholic? And it's not even one of the official religions. And you guys are Catholic. In fact, you're traditional Catholics. What are you doing?
You know, we talk a lot about the divine law. We talk a lot about the laws of the church. As Catholics, as traditional Catholics, we have several laws that are, of course, built one on top of the other. But I think that people too often forget that the natural law, all the laws, the original ones and the ones of the Catholic Church are created or inspired directly by God. The natural law was the very first law that he imposed on this earth. And if you abandon the natural law and it's come to that, everything else kind of falls apart, falls by the wayside, because you've undone this thing. Even though it is written in our hearts, it can be destroyed extremely early in a child. And so with regards to that, we did do the globe thing. We were looking at like South America. We were got a little crazy and looking at Mauritius, well, what's down there? That might be interesting. You know, the Institute of Christ the King is down there, for example, right? Maybe we could go there. Where are you going to go? We're not going to go to Canada. No offense, John Henry. Europe is worse off than North America.
We had these conversations with friends who were also planning to leave America. You know, they actually told us first that they had planned to leave. And we had similar conversations between ourselves, and we're oh wow, we didn't know they were thinking about leaving too. We're not the only ones. And since then, we've had a lot more conversations with other people planning to leave. But they were planning to come to Russia, and we hadn't thought about Russia first. It was very surprising to us. And we had looked at the globe, and we're just, at dinner, Florian had got the globe for Christmas, and we were just spinning it around. We're oh, what's it like to live there? And then our conversations became a little bit more, serious. We're
Yep.
Actually, and every week, we would run into something that was, morally harmful in the raising of children, just the playground down the road, having to deal with, same-sex couples who came to the playground and with their, child, and having to the children are asking questions, why does this boy say he has two mummies? And it was in our face all the time. Every week there'd be 2 or 3 incidents that we had to always try to manage or explain or try not to explain, and we found that it interfered with our daily lives. We felt that we were starting to live in a bubble, because we stopped taking the children to the grocery store because of all the filthy magazines and just the spirit there. There are continually even more and more problems that we ran into,
Yeah.
and people dressed terribly, in the park. And
So the conclusion is you start eliminating continents pretty quickly, right? Mm-hmm. So finally we're just okay, so you got Russia and China is basically left. Australia is out, right? I mean, again, it's the process of elimination. You're okay, yeah, there's this China thing, that doesn't work for us. Russia is what's left, and matter of fact, haven't we been, as traditional Catholics, have we been praying for Russia every day for our whole lives? I don't believe the mainstream media, for example, right, except when it comes to Russia, that was certainly entrenched. Of course, at least they must be right about that. I mean, that's common knowledge. We've been saying that for decades. Why would they lie to us about that? But then it was like, well, at least Russia has a future. We do know that. We do know that Russia has a future. It's promised by Our Lady specifically. Maybe that's an option. I've been listening to the President Putin speak for many years. And again, we're told that Russia is evil. So at the very best, if it happens, what Putin is saying seems to somehow resonate with you, at the very least, it must be a trap. They're just trying to trick us into believing that they actually mean this. But then again, you've been here for a week now. We talked a lot about Potemkin villages, Potemkin steaks, Potemkin furniture. There's a lot of Potemkins, around here.
The problem is it went from facades in the real story to the huge metropolis to we went 4 hours away to another town, and there's others and more. So it's like they're building a Potemkin country filled with all the good things, and then I don't know what it is anymore. The popular perception, though, is everything Putin says is a lie, or you don't even know what he's saying because it's Russian, and they're just dubbing over it, and they're just making it up. Also, of course, they're anti-Catholic, because, of course, Russia doesn't allow Catholicism. It's not one of their official religions, therefore it's out. And that's weird, because you guys are here, and you're going to Catholic Mass, a traditional Catholic Mass, in fact. How does that even work? You've got to dispel for us some of this very popular notions, because you have to remember, people, honest to goodness, don't believe that there's a pro-family attitude in Russia, that they're more pro-life than anyone else, that they are, because we've heard these things, in the news, Russia made LGBT propaganda illegal. And most of the Catholics would say, good, but it's Russia. Good, but it can't be real because it's Russia. And maybe it's mean because it's Russia. It's that bad. You've lived here now a couple of years. Have you been like, oh my gosh, they were right. It's actually secretly bad. What's life like here?
Shockingly good.
We were so relieved.
Yeah.
Remember how relieved we were? You were like, oh, I have muscles that are loosening in the back of my neck. I can move my head.
It was true. You live in a country where people treat... I've been asked on many different interviews, what's your favorite thing about Russia? And it is absolutely... I was just talking on a very pragmatic, practical level. The Russians treat children like gold. Like gold bars. That's how they treat children. And when you come from a country that doesn't value their children at all, right? And they don't realize that supporting a large family, even just encouraging large family. Like the normal people out on the street when you're walking around with your family, and you walk around in America and know if somebody might come up to your wife and ask her why she doesn't watch TV, or does she do anything else with her time other than make kids? On one hand, where you come here and you have like people like shouting from across the street, "Молодец!" like, well done, keep going, давай, more children.
And the welcoming smiles. People are happy to see the large family. When we first came and had to manage public transport, it was very hard to have everyone getting onto the trains and the buses. And everyone, like, the hearts are warm here. People are quick to help, Back in America or even in Europe, I remember traveling, everyone just is in their own little bubble, and they're afraid to step out of it, even to, show charity. But there's such a warmth here. People will just reach out without asking about the stroller. And the old ladies would come off the train and they would quickly grab all the hands of the little ones and be like, davai, davai. And we didn't know these people, but there's a sense of trust between, humanity is, warm and alive here. They would find children's seats and we would walk into the train. And if there were, men and women sitting down, the babushkas would get them all to stand up. And they're like, see, this is a large family. They must sit together. And I remember someone was slow to move once, and she was very sharp with him, and she told him. But you know what? They all respected her because the natural hierarchy is still here. The man deferred to the lady and apologized and bowed his head, and he moved, and he had his earbuds and he didn't know, but he wasn't moving fast enough for the babushka, and she told him what for, and he was polite to her as if it was his own grandmother. We were just so edified with the way that, you know, everyone relates to each other. You know, the women are respectful to the men, and everyone is respectful to the babushkas because, you know, that's how it is and it should be. And we just found it, you know, remember Jean-Jacques didn't have a hat.
Yeah, that's right.
He threw off his hat and it was a snowy day, and we looked down in the stroller and we were on the way to the next station. We were walking and he didn't have a hat, and
It's a mortal sin, by the way, in Russia. If your children is not wearing a hat in the middle of winter, let's just say it's less than, you know, maybe 50 degrees Fahrenheit.
It was just freezing. It wasn't like negative.
Yeah, he was bundled up, but he still didn't have the top of his head covered.
And
man just reaches down. It's like, he doesn't have a hat. Give him my hat.
Just
Old man.
And he put it on the child.
Yeah, he rode with us, and then he was like getting off, and we were like trying to offer him his hat, and he's like, no, that hat is his now. That is his hat. I can get another hat. That's his hat. Yeah. And then we ended up exchanging contact information, and he came over and like cooked food for us in our home, like weeks later, right? I mean, it's just.
But we saw him after that incident. He moved on, and he didn't expect anything from it.
Yeah.
We saw him at the station frequently on a Sunday because he was traveling at the same time. So after some weeks, he did come over, but he would have totally just given that and moved on with his life and not looked for anything.
It's really phenomenal. You know, we were sitting the other day talking. I've got 8 children. Joseph has 7, and his friend here, Fabrice, has 10. And we're all from different countries. I'm from Canada, you're from America, and Fabrice from France. All of us had the same thing happen to our wives, almost identical. My wife was yelled at while we had all our little kids. And they said, you know, you're harming the planet. You're so selfish. I can't believe it. And this was a woman. It wasn't a guy. It was another woman. And I was there, what even is going on? It's insane. Like, it's really insane. Fabrice said the same thing. And Joseph said, you've experienced the same. So this is not uncommon for large families in the West. Not uncommon for large families in Europe. I traveled to Germany with 5 kids once upon a time. And they called us die verrücktes Familie, the crazy family. And here, you're saying it's the opposite.
It really is. The Russian people are really an incredible people. There's a lot of history there, right? Of course, us as Americans, we only know basically what happened from 1917 till 1980 something. If you actually went to a decent college, you might understand just kind of a highlights of that period of time. And that's about all you know about Russia. Nobody knows that Russians had a victory parade defeating Napoleon's troops. They had a Victory Day parade in Paris. Russians were marching through the troops during this period of time. Nobody knows that the Poles took Moscow and stayed there for a year, right? There's all this historical buildup, right, of these countries of Europe that actually do appreciate the relationship, or at least the history and understanding of the history with Russia.
Yes.
As Americans, the most removed history that we have. Somewhere China, Russia. It's just, but these are like the Europeans that got kicked out into, you know, the cold, so to speak, before the communists, just for the record, right? These are just people that have been excused from history and they're not important. The only reason why they might be of any relevance is because they're evil. And they're the most human people that I have ever met. As a country, they're the most human people that I have ever met in my entire life.
Well, they have a rich history. People judge Russia just on the past, you know, how many years? In the last 100 years, for example, they have 1,000 years of history and traditions that were maintained. And yes, unfortunate things have happened in the country. I'm using that word because, you know, I'm not going to open that box right now. But everyone judges Russia as a country on just a small part of what their history has been. People forget that they have a Catholic history too. And Catholicism has been here since the time of St. Olga, St. Vladimir. And it's been in the country. It hasn't been stamped out. People were practicing. You can't judge all the Russian people because of events that happened in the cities, you know. And it's amazing how people hold the whole country accountable for what happened in the past. Whereas, I mean, if you're going to take that approach, then everyone in Germany should still be punished like everyone's punishing the Russians. Why do people say that Russian citizens are guilty of things that they never allowed or wanted?
And the other problem is still this, I'll call it Western, but the West as a collective has a general feeling of exceptionalism. That somehow we're the smart ones, we're the intelligent ones, we're the victors and heroes of history, when in reality, we have to share this with the rest of the world. There are a lot of other countries, Russia not the least of them, certainly, that had a tremendous amount of history, that protected Europe from the Turks for 230 some odd years. I mean, we talk about Charles Martel, we talk about Charlemagne, we talk about El Cid, we talk about all these great Western heroes, but we don't really think about whatever happened east of that. The Russians were living with the Mongols and fighting with the Mongols for hundreds of years. They were fighting with the Turks for hundreds of years. They actually died stopping these hordes from coming to Europe. Again, about the actual Russian people, I think one of their greatest superpowers, that is something that we could learn tremendously from, is that Russians as a people separate and judge separately the people of a country and the government of a country. They somehow are able to do that. That's not something that I ever understood. People sometimes have told me when I've told that story, they're like, oh, no, I separate the people and the government. Like, yeah, about 30 seconds ago when it became relevant, because you didn't think about it, because everybody just says the Russians and those bad people, and how dare they attack this country, and how dare they invade, how dare they. We have a tremendous amount of national sin to account for.
In America.
Right, absolutely. You think that it's okay that, back in this year that the Russians had this abortion rate, but we had a better year in 2000 and whatever. So that makes you less bad because you killed some less babies? You're better than they are because you killed less children than them. That makes no sense whatsoever. But as people will see in your interviews, there's a lot of interesting data even there.
There is. One of the things that is really strange is for the past at least 5, 7, 8 years, the internet has been alive with videos of President Putin speaking. And almost without fail, he's saying all the things that conservatives want to hear. He's talking about God as a president. He's talking about pro-life. He's talking about pro-family, especially pro-family. He's talking about keeping Russia Russian the way we talk about keeping America American, in a good way. And yet it's heard so differently. Half the people who really love it think, oh, it must be dubbed over fake. That's not real what he's saying. They're just making it seem good. The people who know more about it and realize, oh no, that is what he's saying, are like, yeah, but it must be fake. He's just putting on a show for America. It's that bad. And it's that bad also for Catholics. And that's why I think you guys are so interesting, because you're Catholics and you're here and you're living here as Catholics. I'm sure many people would have said, oh, well, then you're going to be Orthodox then. And are you comfortable being Catholic here?
I've given many interviews across the board, both Western and Russian sources. And I'm talking about the New York Times. They didn't publish my interview. Wall Street Journal, The Spectator, these kind of outlets, and then RT, TASS, and these other ones, right? It's my calling card whenever I give these interviews, or they come into our house and they see what we have, our statues, our faith. We wear it on our sleeves. We're very proud of our faith. Very, very, very comfortable with the faith that God has given us. And it's really sad to talk to several people that I communicate with online that I've known for decades, and they somehow, I've all of a sudden become a Putin stooge because I actually went to a different country and experienced what it's actually like on the ground. We've been treated with nothing but respect. Met with many Orthodox people many Catholic people. You've met several of these people already. It's not like you're just, oh, well, we're alone and we're just living here amongst all the Orthodox. No, there's a lot of different people. But even the Orthodox people are good and wholesome people. Some of these people that we know, some of these people that you've met, sad to say, much better people than many other traditional Catholics that I know. Does that make me think that what we believe, how I lead my family is not the truth? No, because it doesn't have to do with the people. You know, everybody is so tired. People my age, people are older than myself. Many of these poor people are just tired. And they're just dying for some normality. And you know what? It's interesting. I only thought about this just this moment, actually. This is really crazy. These people who've been fighting the faith, fighting for their faith, fighting for tradition, have been fighting for it for so long and they're exhausted. But the world got worse in the meantime. Many families are seeing their children get lost to horrible perversions in this world. And they don't have anything left to hang on to. Where am I supposed to tack on?
Yes.
Where am I supposed to do that? I'm tired. You know, you come over to Russia and all of a sudden you can breathe again. You're like, hey, I'm ready for round 2. Let's go. This is exciting. You can focus on raising your children and you're not afraid about what's going to happen to your children when you're walking down the street, or who it is that they might bump into, or who it is that they might speak with. You met Florian earlier, for example. She loves talking to people, and people have conversations with her, Russians here, and they just absolutely love having these conversations with her. They want to hug our children, they want to embrace our children and bring us into their tribe. I love that. That's something motivating to wake up to in the morning.
Last question for you, because this is a big hurdle. Language.
Правильно.
So this is, you come here, and I came here, and I go to Mass every day, and have my phone, and I was trying to find and none of the letters correspond. Pectopa is the only one that works for me. and all the Russians will get that, but nobody else. But anyway, how challenging has that been for you? And what are your suggestions for people?
We came before there were courses available. We were one of the very first families, so we've had a more difficult time to catch up to the language. Our children are homeschooled. With the influx of immigrant children, the Russians are protecting their Russian language and their school system, and you have to learn Russian before you enter most schools. So we're learning it at home. We had a tutor. Florian has caught on very quickly. Florian, the other children, we were in the playground, my 1 and 2 and 3-year-old, they speak Russian to the children. I don't know what they're saying. Okay? We arrived, they're on their scooters, they just pick it up like that. It hasn't been a problem. Wolfgang, the Russian mothers will speak to him, and he was just a newborn when we arrived. And he will nod and do what they say, and he will have a little conversation. So they're fine. They've had total immersion since. The middle children have been slower, like Clotilde and Antoinette. They're still learning syllables right now, so they're reading couple years lower than the Russian children their age. But they're catching on fast. Yesterday I had them doing syllables and Russian pronunciation. They know the alphabet. It's not as fast as we would have liked it to be, but it's not slow either. So
Я изучал русский язык только 4 месяца. Я немного уроки, немного слове, но есть много практика. So any of your viewers can give some feedback to you in your comments about what it was that I said. But the fact is that it wasn't perfect Russian, but generally expressed the idea. There's also translators and all this sort of stuff that you can use, electronic translators.
Yes.
I will never lie to anybody and say it's an easy language. It's a very difficult language. But if you're doing it for the right reasons, and you pray particularly, as we do, every morning to St. Jude to help us learn our language.
Yes.
You can pick up the phone now and talk to somebody and understand them basically what's happening.
Yes.
And okay, yeah, now it's not like you just picked up the phone, you're like, somebody's calling me. I don't pick that
sound
up.
like a cave woman. That's probably what it's like. You know, I can put words together and I can get my wants, across. But it's faster now. I started a new method, which one of our very good friends, Mr. Bosman, Charles Bosman, has a new method called the Blitz method. Well, it's not new because it's the method that he used to learn Russian very quickly. And I've made more progress in the last month than I have in a whole year. And his, instead of focusing on grammar first, intently, because the grammar, getting caught up with the grammar is really confusing, just start memorizing lots and lots of vocabulary. So I was memorizing 20, 30 words a day, and every time I come across a word, I have a big whiteboard and I write it down. And I don't have time to be on my phone, so I put the whiteboard in the kitchen. And he has great other suggestions as well. So we started using that with the children. And yeah, in the last month, we've really, really made a lot of progress. So I wish I had done that earlier, just focus on memorizing vocabulary.
It's a great point as well to remember that America was, as I understood, founded by a bunch of Europeans, including Russians. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting, again, plenty of Russians moved to America and they figured out how to work an alphabet that is more or less opposite their own. So it is possible. It is possible.
I did want to mention Fulton Sheen's writings about Russia, which seem to have been buried. People who love Fulton Sheen should read his writings about Russia. That's very important. Second thing I wanted to say was, when you asked us why we moved here, Russia is very, very dear to my heart, especially my family, because Robert Bergen was my uncle. So he was great champion of the Fatima cause and worked with Father Gruner. And yeah, we still pray for him. And he was buried in Fatima. And the Fatima connection is very strong with the reason why we came to Russia.
I think Sheen's main point in there was to separate, as you were saying before, Russia from the Russian people from communism, because that tends to, in people's minds, just be together, and it's sort of like not coming apart.
It needs to stop.
Especially now, since they've sort of left it behind. And there, interestingly to me, it seems that while the West is we're all still burrowing our way down, these guys hit the bottom and coming back up. So
I think the final thought that I would leave with people, there are plenty of people out there who like to monetize on Fatima. And part of that monetization strategy is reliant on making sure that people remember the message that Our Lady of Fatima gave 100 years ago and said that Russia would spread her errors throughout the world. If that hasn't happened yet, I don't know when it happened, because that did happen, but the emphasis is on the past tense. It did happen. It did spread throughout the entire world. The entire world is literally crumbling at its foundations because it did spread. It's not spreading right now. No, Russia was all but destroyed. The President Putin took his country, and you can say whatever you want about Putin, but he actually has things to show for what he did. And that's why the Russian people respect him. And the rest of the world is literally suffering because they're already infected and they're dying. Russia all but died and was brought back from the grave. So if I may be so bold to issue a very, very important warning that people who think that they can keep their dream alive and their monetization alive by saying that Russia is still spreading her errors throughout the world instead of it already did, and you are the ones who are leading the sponsors of the evil in this world. There will be hell to pay for that. There will be hell to pay for fighting against Our Lady's wishes. And the people who think that they are the champions of Fatima and literally every day spend their time hating, not seeking understanding, not seeking the consecration of Russia to Our Lady's Immaculate Heart, there will be hell to pay for that.
Wow. Joseph Schutzman, Anne Schutzman, thank you so much for being with us. God bless you.
God bless you.
And God bless all of you. This is John Henry Weston, from Russia.
Aloha everyone, this is Jason Jones for LifeSite News. We hope you enjoyed this video. For more content like this, check the link in the description. You can also connect with us on social media to stay up to date with the latest news on life, faith, family, and freedom. Thanks for watching, and may God bless you.